My name's JQuill, and I'm really excited to be sharing this latest body of works. I'd have to look back at my notes again. It's the qualms of having a shocking memory like mine, but I believe it's 9 to 10 larger works and about 5 to 7 smaller works, along with some original sketches from Berlin in 2013 and some recently made prints of those sketches, ink prints on canvas as well. But it's all going to come down to once I see the space on Sunday and start hanging to see how much I can fit into the gallery. Yeah, this is actually like a gorgeous catalogue book of another Sydney artist and like good friend of mine, Tom Fersen. And he's done, during the lockdowns, he did a series of like portraiture sketches over webcam. And then sort of these snippets of the conversation about the people. It's like super inspiring. It's a good one. A nice little note on the back. Personalised little gift. This painting, like I was going to put it in the show, it might still end up in there, but was for me a re-emergence of my last admission to hospital. And I guess that's one thing that like I haven't shared, is that, yeah, like, you know, there's one thing, you know, having a diagnosis, like many people live now with diagnosis. Most of this country lives with a diagnosis, but then, you know, there's people that live with diagnosis and who have, you know, spent like a large majority of time and continue to spend a large majority of time in and out of hospital. I'm unfortunately one of those people. I can't even remember how many times I've been, you know, scheduled or, you know, self-admitted to hospital. It's been over the past 10 years. And when I do get out, painting is a huge thing for me to not only connect myself with my spirituality, but also to connect with reality, because I'm able to share that with people by putting on an exhibition. And that has been my repeated sort of behavior over the past 10 years, is to go and recover and sort of lose myself and end up in hospital, and then end up back in Sydney with family, and I'm so lucky for that, and to have a home studio where I can paint there and recover, and build myself and work myself up to an exhibition again. And it's hard for me to fully comprehend now because my memory is so damaged from, it's again like a lengthier discussion to be had about certain things. But my life in Berlin and who I was and who I was allowed to be, and and that freedom to be what you wanted to be, for me, I had felt like myself for the first time in a long time, especially, being a creator in the fashion industry that I was never really connected to, but put a lot of, energy into that to make something of that and live a creative life in Sydney. To, then feel that, warmth in a city on the other side of the world and support from a community I've only just known for a short time, and then to come back and, although I'm not saying that maybe I was a bit unstable at the time, for me it felt like I was not being accepted for who I actually was, and that was, that created a huge conflict with me and within myself, and my diagnosis with bipolar, because I lived unmedicated in Berlin for 9 months in a relationship with good friends and living a lifestyle as an artist for 9 to 10 months without any issues. And I think I was in Sydney for maybe a month on my return, and people thought I was not acting in the right way, or there was something wrong. So that was like a very confusing time for me to come back to Sydney. Yeah. Berlin was literally the, starting moment for me to, I felt the desire, and I could see myself as needed almost to be the artist in the studio and have my own space and explore working on canvas and sharing my creativity through the realms of painting on canvas. And it was very raw. It was, darker tones, almost like some almost eerie-ish paintings coming out from my studio in Köpenick, like just east of Berlin at the time. And it's not unfortunately, it was just the case I only managed to bring 2 of those paintings back with me to Australia. So there's still undocumented, paintings of mine in a basement somewhere in in Berlin that have been sitting there for 10 years that I can't even remember painting now because of what I've been through and where my memory sits. But I still have this faint memory of the very early days of being in my studio, which was in the tiny little studio in this huge old radio warehouse just outside of Berlin, and calling my little sister up and just having her on the phone and just being like, what am I doing, Jenna? I'm on the other side of the world in Berlin. I've got myself a studio and I don't know how to paint. Like, what have I done? So it was, I think I had the studio for 6 months and it was just pure experimentation. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was, you know, self-taught and had been painting with a few like street artists with aerosol cans on for about a year on the streets, and decided to shift, you know, not only into a studio but into a studio on the other side of the world. And I made it happen, and I'm staring at the one main painting that I've brought back right now, so it's bringing back some memories, and some, you know, reassurance to myself that, you know, I was managing, and, you know, I was working over there. Like, I wasn't just over in Berlin taking drugs and partying, and having a laugh. Like, I was over there to pursue my new career as a painter, and that was taken seriously in Berlin. And ironically, it's taken me 10 years to show this painting in an exhibition, and I'm stoked to be doing that, alongside some of my other portraiture works that have a lot more of a colourful, enjoyable appearance to them. But yeah, this painting, to me at the time, captured, you know, a sense of achievement, and looking at it, it looks like a drained soul, but at the time I was thriving. I felt great. I was enjoying life. I was, you know, thriving in the nightlife of Berlin. I was like enjoying the daily markets down by the river. But this is what I was painting. And a lot of people would probably look at that and think I was severely depressed when I painted that painting, especially with my history. But it wasn't. That was manic. That was in a heightened state with no sketch, no sort of formula to it. It just was my last piece of canvas that I bought with my last €10 note at the Turkish markets, and I had to paint something solid on it. I had to. I wasn't leaving Berlin without finishing a good painting, and I felt like I did pretty well at the time, and I had a lot more ahead of me, but it's been a big challenge to keep that flow through my career as an artist, with the ups and downs that have come along the way. I mean, I would have loved to have carried on painting, you know, quite dark, eerie works. But upon reflection, I was invited to a jazz bar / gallery by my partner's uncle at the time, and they really loved my work, but they wanted something brighter. So that for me was, when I came home to Australia, a big shift in my work, and it was mainly more abstract and colour play at the time, but was to create something more colourful to then take back to this gallery in Berlin and show them. And it was a big shift in the direction that I took with my painting, and it became about understanding colour and form, and using my mathematical mind to, you know, work that into my paintings and create abstract work, and focused my painting on the abstract for quite some time. And so it's sort of full circle now that I'm coming back to a show of my portraiture work created in Australia and in Sydney, when that's what I was doing in Berlin 10 years ago.